Eyeing big storm potential to start March with severe weather and winter weather on the table. Welcome in, everybody. Great to see you on this Wednesday. And in a little bit of a lull right now. We had a crazy start to 2025. January off the charts. February had big storms. Now a little bit of a lull, but don't get too excited because I think as we start March, another storm system is going to begin to work into frame here. And this one could be pretty potent with severe weather, including tornado potential, as well as winter weather for portions of the lower 48. And we're going to break down who's going to see what, or at least who has a shot at seeing what in today's video. Now, if you haven't already, go ahead, like the video, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. Almost at 40,000 subscribers, inching our way there. So if you haven't already subscribed and you want to help us get there, definitely hit the button. And I also want to say thank you to our channel members. Appreciate you folks. During these slower times, the channel runs off of you. So if it wasn't for you, these videos probably be a lot less likely to happen. I got a little tongue-tied there. But with all that said, let's go ahead and jump on into the data, right? We got a lot to talk about, so let's go ahead and start doing it. Now, next to me, this is the latest run of our European computer model showing that potential right around March 3rd, 4th, and 5th. I think is when this thing's going to get going. You can see it starting out into the plains and then crossing through the eastern U.S. And I think we're pretty confident on that happening. The question will be how far south does it start? How far north does it end up? And how strong is it going to be? That's going to be very important for, really nailing down the forecast and kind of figuring out who exactly is going to see what with this storm system. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at current satellite loop because, we got a lot to talk about down the road, but some interesting stuff ongoing out there right now as well. That is definitely worth noting. Now, taking a look at it, a little piece of energy spinning out there right now. Might be kind of hard to find, but we've got a little bit of a trough out here over the Dakotas and Nebraska. That's firing up some moisture and energy to the east of it on that diverging side. We always talk about that in the videos. Anything on the right-hand side of a trough, that's where we've got kind of separating air above us and lift at the surface, or ascent, another word for it. And well, the math is checking out here today. We've got some of those showers, including a little bit of wintry weather up there into the Midwest on this Wednesday morning. Other than that, folks, pretty quiet out there right now. We've got a big storm off the East Coast. You can see right here on the edge. That's pulling away, though, and really won't be bothering anybody, and matches up with our radar imagery as well. You take a look at radar across the lower 48. Yeah, the only active area, really, besides a little bit of stuff up here in the Maine, but again, that's pulling out of here, is right over the heart of the Midwest. We've got heavy rain back into Chicago, back down towards Lafayette, Logansport, Indiana, moving into the Fort Wayne area, and a little bit of wintry weather as well into Bay City, Lansing, not far there north of Kalamazoo, and kind of working even through the Detroit area. Some light flurries or snow showers ongoing this morning, but I think really the heaviest rain back here from Kenosha to Chicago up towards Milwaukee and Madison, probably the most impactful on that morning commute. But luckily, this will move out of the way, at least for you folks, but eventually into the Northeast by later this afternoon. Again, not a potent storm system, but one worth mentioning as things are relatively quiet here in the current term. So let's talk about it a little bit. This is the latest North American model, or our NAM model, as you often hear it called. And you can see picking up on that storm system pretty well here at our current time. Now, maybe the NAM running a little bit slower than the actual timing of the storm, but overall doing an all right job. You can see that rain and a little bit of wintry weather mixing in. This is by this evening, right around rush hour commute here, about 5 o'clock. That rain moving into portions of northern Ohio, back down into central Indiana, and some wintry weather trying to get going there into Ontario, near London, Ontario. That area can see a little bit of snow, then runs into just enough cold air into the higher elevations of northern PA, and we're going to get some wet snowflakes out of it, but rain for most of us out of this storm system. And you can see on the backside, some cold air begins to catch up to it. We've got another upper level piece of energy. This is overnight tonight, about 3 a.m. Central Time. Check this out. This is going to come in and bring a little bit of an injection of cold air behind the storm. I'm going to try to change over to a little bit of snow this evening and overnight into portions of Michigan. Again, not a huge event here, but worth noting. And then even some kind of moderate to heavy wet snow over the Finger Lakes. Maybe into the Catskills, up towards the Adirondacks by the early morning hours of tomorrow. I think mainly rain for the I-95, though. Boston probably going to be rain here. Now, Western Mass, Northern Mass, some of these higher elevations could get some wet snow to mix in here. And I think a nice little burst of wet snow tomorrow morning in Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. We got some snow showers through Michigan as that upper level energy kind of swings through and starts working with this surface low. And it's going to really kind of blossom radar imagery a little bit here by Thursday afternoon. You can see the interior Northeast getting some pretty good snow shower activity out of this. And then some back in northwest flow snow from the Alleghenies, even down into the mountains of West Virginia, all the way up through the interior. Nothing at the I-95 corridor, but the front definitely strengthening as it moves off the coastline. And then that gets us right here to Friday afternoon, our next storm system. This one more potent, a little clipper here, going to dive on down south. I think this one's going to bring more impactful snowfall. Now, the question still remains with this storm is exactly how far south does it track? Some of our models, like the NAM here, brings it into the U.S. Other models a little bit further north and brings most of the snow up into Canada. That's something we're going to need to watch. And I know this is Friday afternoon, today's Wednesday. You're thinking, all right, well, maybe we should have this figured out by now. It's close, and it's just a small difference in the track, and I'll show you that next. But the NAM here does bring some pretty heavy snow into the UP, into the northern thumb, and then eventually into the interior. The Adirondacks get some good snowfall, Vermont, New Hampshire, and then the storm kind of rides through that region. Gusty winds, pretty moderate and even heavy snowfall at times, all the way up to Saturday afternoon here. This is as far out as the model goes, but from here on, it would pull up into Canada and still bring some back-end snow behind it through some of the same areas. So kind of the theme here, overall winners over the next couple of days here in the Northeast are going to be the interior, the higher elevations, the northern Great Lakes. The usual winner is going to continue to win. I-95, not really expecting any snow in the near term, but let's talk about the track possibilities with this clipper come Friday and into Saturday. So these are our European ensemble members. Basically, you see all these little red dots. That's where every ensemble member is projecting that the center of low pressure could be. And you notice a pretty good cluster here, right where kind of the NAM has it, but there are also another little cluster to the north up into Canada. So if we get a further north track, that's going to shift all this snow to the north with it. And that's something we'll need to watch, I think, in the models. Could this flip-flop back the other way? Absolutely could. But if it stays on track right now for this kind of center of track over northern Michigan, what I just showed you with the NAM would be pretty close to reality on what would unfold with the storm system Friday and Saturday. Now, the million-dollar question is, though, how much snow can you expect? Let me back it up just a little bit, actually. So this is for, this is kind of the near-term snow. This gets us to Saturday morning. So this is mainly our little ongoing storm and a little bit of the next one. But you can definitely see the winners here in the interior northeast out of that, up through the Adirondacks, Vermont, New Hampshire, and then up here into the UP of Michigan, Marquette, about half a foot of snow. We'll go all the way out of time, though, and kind of beef up into the next storm system, the Clipper I told you about, and we zoom out a little bit. Yeah, the real winners still kind of the same places here, up through the Adirondacks, the Green Mountains, mountains of New Hampshire. Anything you see yellow or above on the color table here, that's half a foot plus. So you can see the big swath of snow up into Canada. Again, I think get a swath in here of half a foot to a foot of snow, but some of that will reach the U.S. Again, the UP, maybe even the northern thumb down towards Alpena could get half a foot between everything from now through the weekend. And then again, I think northern New York, Vermont, New Hampshire going to be another bullseye location. Then on the backside, like I mentioned, watching that northwest flow snow, we could get snow all the way down to the Alleghenies, would not surprise me. And then up into the mountains of PA, up through New York. So, kind of the same old is kind of what it looks like there. But definitely something to monitor and something we will keep you updated on. Alrighty, so another little kind of surprise storm system I'm watching. This is Friday evening. So obviously our vorticity map here, our storm energy map, you see all that energy that we just talked about with the Clipper system. Again, right here is kind of the center of your trough. So the diverging side over here, guess what? That's right where the low pressure is. So the math checks out there once more. But another thing you're probably going to notice on the map here come Friday evening, check out this area of low pressure over near California. This is a feisty low pressure system. And this is not even the main storm we're talking about. This is kind of a wild card system, I would say, on the GFS. Kind of gets pushed through California, Nevada, eventually into the Four Corners. And then by, this is Monday morning, we'll pause it right here. We've got a nice little area of energy and low pressure over portions of Missouri and Kansas. And another thing I forgot to mention earlier is as this is happening and after our weekend Clipper, see this big dip in the jet over the east, that's going to bring cold air. So we're going to get an injection of cold into the east this weekend. Again, it's beautiful out there right now. It's about as spring-like as we've had so far this year. However, after the weekend Clipper on Friday, it's going to get pretty chilly again this weekend. And that combined with a little bit of energy trying to catch up to that cold air, don't rule out a wintry mix or some sort of winter mischief to start March here in kind of the Ohio Valley, maybe even as far south as the Tennessee Valley. Some of the models picking up on it, others not so much. But behind it this Monday morning, coming up, here's our main storm system, the one you've been hearing about that could cause bigger trouble. But this little guy, watching that as well, a little bit of a wild card. And I'll show you why it's a wild card, because here's the GFS model for it. This is Saturday morning. Here's the storm entering California. It doesn't look like a lot by any means. But we'll move it ahead into time, watch it cross the four corners, still kind of moisture deprived, a little bit of snow and rain showers over that region, then gets ejected, hits that Gulf moisture, and begins to blossom up here by Monday morning. And check it out, we got all this cold air stuck in the east from that big shot of cold air over the weekend. We've got some snow and ice breaking out along that boundary from portions of Iowa through Illinois, even as far south as Indiana and Kentucky, out of that little storm system, and then tries to work eastbound. Heck, it gets snow in the mountains of North Carolina by Monday evening, and kind of even a rain, snow, icy mix into the Blacksburg area of Virginia, and then just some good old-fashioned showers over the Charlotte area. But if I take a little sounding here just for fun, I mean, that's not very fun. That's 41 in rain in Charlotte on the GFS model, at least Monday evening. But you can definitely see that kind of sits there, and then the next big storm catches up to it by the Tuesday timeframe. Now, that's the GFS. Why are we saying it's a wild card storm? Well, because here's the European. Again, shows the storm. It's just not nearly as exciting, and you might have missed it even. You see this little blow up of some light showers and even a little bit of a wintry mix there into Iowa. This is Monday early in the morning. Yeah, a very different looking solution. So we'll time it out for you. We'll continue to watch it, watch the trends. Probably the European's going to be right, but I showed you the GFS as well because it could go either way. That's why it's called a wild card here, and something we will definitely keep on watching. Now, that gets us to the fun stuff, or maybe not fun stuff because we're going to be talking about some severe weather, but that gets us to the more active time frame. So I've got it here. This is Saturday morning on the European ensembles. Again, blue is cold air, red is generally warm air, and some of the blue are storm systems. So again, I mentioned over the weekend a shot of cold air into the east. I mean, it's going to start to feel like winter again, folks. Right now, we're talking 70s all the way up to DC, maybe even Philly this afternoon. By Saturday, we're going to be back in the 30s and 40s, so don't get too excited with this warmer air. It's that classic roller coaster time of the year. Your sinus is probably not going to be very happy with you, but it is what it is. Now, also at this time Saturday afternoon, here's that wild card storm on the European ensembles. It's there, but behind it over the Pacific is the bigger storm system. That's the one that's going to cause big trouble, I think, by next week. And as we time it out, you'll watch that occur. The little wild card storm moves through, just kind of doesn't do very much. You see it weakens pretty quickly, but the big storm behind it really beefs up. This is by Tuesday morning and afternoon. So this is a classic signal for a big storm and generally severe weather as well. We've got this big trough in the west that's providing cold air and dry air. It's also providing lift kind of out in front of it, and then out on the other side, we've got a big ridge or a big spike of warmer air. So it's going to get cold this weekend, a warm up behind it by early next week. So we've got instability in the warm side. We've got the cold air on the other side. That's going to really kind of get things going here. And I think could really lead to a pretty powerful storm system here to start March. This is Tuesday, March 4th. Keeps on going up through the northeast. And then check it out, another signal behind that one by about 10 days from now. That one could get interesting. Stay tuned. That could be maybe a little bit further south, maybe a little colder. We'll talk about that one another time, but a little sneak peek into the future. But today, let's focus on the big storm system on the way. Let's look at some model data. Here's the European run from, or the latest run we have, basically. Here we go. Tuesday afternoon, storm system starts to get out of the Rockies and ejects into the plains. Already starting off strong here, 991 millibars Tuesday evening. This would bring a severe weather threat down south into the warm sector where you see those storms in East Texas through the Arklatex, Louisiana, Arkansas, up north. We've even got some snow in Nebraska, northeast Colorado. I'll remind you, March is the snowiest month for places like Denver, so we could be talking big snow out that way this time of year. We'll see if this storm does it out in front of it, kind of in between, just rain, flooding threat in the Ohio Valley at this point on the model. And then you move it ahead into overnight Tuesday. Let's pause it here Wednesday morning. Folks, this is a powerful storm system, 990 millibars. That would bring wind concerns, power outage concerns, and really concerned about this look on the European. This looks like a big-time severe weather threat. This is Wednesday morning, but watch as we go through Wednesday afternoon. I mean, that's nasty looking for the Carolinas. Now, an important thing to note here, the timing is so important when talking about severe weather. This shows the storm right here on Wednesday afternoon. That would bring big severe weather Wednesday into the mid-Atlantic, portions of the southeast, If this thing is a little bit quicker, then it moves through during the morning hours, less instability in those areas. But it's going to line up somewhere to where this thing is moving through during peak heating, and that's where we'll have the highest severe weather threat. Also, check this out, classic deformation band as our cool conveyor wraps around the storm system. We could get some heavy snow out of this thing somewhere. Now, again, the where is the tough part, but I think someone's going to get a good burst of snow on the north side of this thing. And again, I mean, look at this. That's just nasty look for severe weather into the Carolinas, up through Virginia. This will be Wednesday evening of next week. Eventually, the storm system moving up into the northeast, bringing that snow potentially on the northern side, and then that severe weather threat and heavy rainfall flooding threat on the eastern and southern side of the cold front here, and then swings on through. And after it, a little sneak peek. Yeah, do we get something exciting here in about 10 days? We'll see, but we'll talk about that again later on as we get a tad closer. That was the European model. What about the GFS? What does it show? Well, pretty similar idea in the sense there's going to be a storm, but very different evolution of the storm. Here we go. Kind of starts in the same area and kind of even gets some snow in the same areas, but starts as a weaker storm. So notice this is Tuesday evening. We've got snow on the north side through Iowa, through Wisconsin, back into portions of even Nebraska and Kansas, and then even snow up into the northern thumb. And then we've got some rain on the south side. Now, less potent of a storm system on the GFS, thus less of a severe weather risk. However, there probably would still be one. This would be Wednesday morning, and then we get into Wednesday afternoon. And you notice kind of what happens is you get another big burst of kind of rainfall down south. You're thinking, all right, well, it's kind of displaced from the storm. What happens on the GFS is it creates a whole new storm. You can see a new area of low pressure develops much further south. This is actually more of a cold storm than anything, and this brings crazy weather into the Carolinas. Strong wind, some storminess potentially down near the coast by next Wednesday, Thursday, and then rides up the coast and tries to get a winter weather borderline nor'easter by about 8 or 9 days from now up the eastern seaboard. So a lot to figure out here still. Again, confident there's going to be a big storm next week. The question is where and exactly how big. But the confidence is still there in the storm system. Just trying to figure it out, really. And that's to be expected whenever we're still this far away. Now, severe weather ingredients, the European ensemble showing that potential here. Big blow up. This is Tuesday over kind of the southern plains, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana. You get into overnight Tuesday. Here we go Wednesday morning and afternoon. That threat moves into Dixie Alley and potentially even into the Carolinas. And because of that, the folks at the Storm Prediction Center here have officially issued a slight risk. And this is, and you hear slight risk, you don't think it's a big deal, but this is a day 7 slight risk. That means they're pulling the trigger a week out saying, yeah, we're going to probably see some severe weather next Tuesday or Wednesday out here from Memphis into Little Rock, back over towards Shreveport, the Arklatex, Monroe, Jackson, Meridian, Tupelo. So go ahead, start preparing now. We're getting towards severe weather season right around the corner, and this one likely to bring severe weather somewhere. Now, I'll be honest, I'm a little surprised they pulled the trigger now, given the uncertainty of the storm system and its exact track, but this tells me they're also buying the European solution probably a lot more than the GFS solution. And that's probably going to be closer to reality, but we got to still look at all the models and talk about the possibilities within them. What about snow? Are we going to see some snow out of this one? Well, I think so. The question again being where and exactly how much. But wherever we get on the northern side of that low pressure, where we're going to have deformation band potential, I think going to have a shot at some pretty good snow out of this thing, maybe even moderate to heavy snowfall totals. You can see early next week, snow begins out into the Rockies, then gets into the northern plains. Here we go, Nebraska trying to get some snow. This is the European ensembles. I don't know if I mentioned that. I'll throw it in there in case I didn't. And then you see another big burst of snow up into Michigan, Wisconsin, into portions of Canada. I think those are definitely the favored areas right now for snow. And then even some back-end snow and even a little secondary storm system showing up on the European here right around the 8th or 9th of March. So I'll go and I'll say it again. So we've got the big storm next week, kind of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Watch next weekend as well. I think at that point, cold air gets established again. The storm track probably becomes a little bit further south, and we could get more of a wintry type storm by about the 10th of March. Again, we'll talk about it more as we get closer, but just going to give you the early heads up on that. Should the models continue with their trends, but way too soon to talk totals or timing or exact locations or anything like that. Just a signal in that time frame for something in the eastern U.S. That could be wintry after this big storm. All right, GFS ensembles, kind of same idea here. You get that Rocky Mountain snow early next week, feeling good about that. And then that ejects up into the northern plains here through the Dakotas, Nebraska, gets through Minnesota, Wisconsin, and into Michigan, kind of the same areas, and then up into Canada. And then on the backside, northwest flow and a secondary storm system yeah, things look interesting right around 10, 11, 12 days from now. We'll see what happens. But I do expect snow with the first storm. It's just we're still too soon to know exactly where. Not expecting a huge swath of big snow, though. I think it's going to be more of wherever that deformation band sets up. Some localized locations are going to cash in, but I'm not expecting a sea to shining sea massive winter storm out of this first storm. All right, final thing to talk about are temperatures today. Check it out, folks. I mean, it's beautiful out there. It's about as spring-like as you could ask for the end of February. Stays that way. Here's tomorrow afternoon. Still nice for many of us. Friday afternoon, notice in the east, we get one little pocket of cold air up in the northeast. That kind of ruins the fun a little bit. Temperatures in eastern Canada, we're talking 10 to 20 below what we should be this time of year. More like 5 to 10 in the northeast. And then we get to Saturday, and the cold air continues to ooze south. A secondary shot. Check it out. The Midwest getting in on this cooler air. Again, this is Saturday afternoon. And then by Sunday, yeah, everyone in the east back in the freezer, unfortunately, especially up north. We're talking 20 or 25 degrees below what we should be this time of year through New York State, Ontario, up through Vermont, portions of Massachusetts, heck, even all the way down to the Carolinas, about 10 to 15 below what we should be this time of year. High temperature probably in the upper 50s, 60s in the Carolinas this time of year, so high is going to be in the 40s and 50s with this air mass. And then ahead of the next big storm system, here's Monday afternoon, still holding on to the cold air in the east, but a big warm up by Tuesday as the next storm pushes that Gulf moisture and humidity back northbound. And then behind that storm, another shot of cold air. And could that set up the stage for some wintry mischief past 10 days? It's very possible, and I'll continue to keep you updated. Alrighty, folks, again, if you haven't already, go ahead and like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell for the latest notifications. And as always, again, thank you to our channel members. If you'd like to become a member, go ahead and hit the join button down below. And with that said, y'all have a great one. Stay safe, and I'll see you all next time.